Welcome back to my channel, Crafting with Nordy. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make these mini seasonal recipe books using these Dollar Tree notepads and some really pretty paper from Parklane. The theme is Simple Life. I'm also going to be showing you how to make these dividers using the Cricut app. I'll be showing you how to coil bound as well and how to hide that coil. So we'll be using a binding machine also. All right, let's get into it. Okay, to get started on these mini seasonal recipe books, you're going to need some chipboard, 8.5 by 11 or a 12 by 12 sheet of chipboard that's about a 1/16 of an inch thick is what you're gonna need. You're gonna need the Dollar Tree notepads. They come in a pack of 3. They're 50 sheets each and they're 3.5 by 5 inch. You're gonna need some scissors, a scoring bone, a ruler, some extra strong double-sided tape and or your glue of your choice. To finish it off, we will be using some Mod Podge on the outside, so you'll need that and a brush. I'll be using my Recollection scoring and cutting board for my cardstock. And I'm just going to use this other cutting board that I have that I don't use for any paper anymore, so I'll be using that to cut my chipboard. But if you have an X-Acto knife or something like that, you can use that as well. This chipboard is 8.5 by 11, and I'm making 4 books for 4 seasons. And so if you're going to make 4 books, you're going to need 2 sheets of cardstock for the front and back covers, and then an extra sheet or at least a remnant piece if you have it for the spine. Now the front and back covers are going to be 4 1/8 by 5 1/4, and the spine is going to be 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so I went ahead and just drew mine all out and or traced it all out, and I'll have that ready to cut. You're also going to need a coil. And for this one, the coils that I am using are these ones right here from Fellowes, and they are the 12mm 1/2 inch, and the, let's see, I think that's 81 to 100 sheets of paper. But that's where these come in, and they're a lot bigger than that. You're also going to need some wire cutters to cut those down. If you want to use glue on this project, you can go ahead and do that as well. Personally, I don't care to use the glue because I feel like it gets kind of warped and the paper tends to get a little bit wrinkled. I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm putting a little bit too much. Plus it just gets my hands dirty, and I'd much rather use extra strong tape. But for the edges here, I would recommend glue for these edges. I think it just works better. That's what's going to be touched the most, and I just think for that area, for those edges, I would use glue. Okay? All right, so let's get started. Okay, so now that our chipboard is all cut, next we're going to cut our paper. Okay, and that's going to be for the cover and for the inside. And the one I'm going to use right now is going to be this one. And this paper that I'm using is from Parklane, and it's the theme is Simple Life. And let me show, I don't know if I showed you that or not, but this is the paper I'm going to be using today, and I think it's really cute. Okay, so this is going to be my outside cover. Okay, so now we're going to cut the cover, the outside cover and the inside cover. So this is my outside cover, and this one I'm going to cut at 10 inches wide. This is so that we have a 1/2 inch overlay all the way around. And you can save this piece just in case. I'm not sure. I'll leave that up to you guys if you want to use it. 6 1/4 tall. So this is going to give us that 1/2 inch all the way around. And our inside cover is going to be 9 by 5/8. Okay, so now we're gonna take our cover and you're gonna grab 2 of the bigger chipboards for your front and back and then 1 of your spines, okay? Okay, so you're gonna take your cover and you are going to mark the center, which is gonna be 5 inches from top to bottom. And then you're gonna take your spine and you're gonna find the center of that, which is about 3/8, okay? And you're gonna make a mark on the top and the bottom at 3/8. And this is just gonna help you when you go to line up that spine, okay? And so what I would recommend here is you can leave a border for gluing if you want to, because like we said from before, there's gonna be a 1/2 inch overlay, so it's gonna come over about a 1/2 inch. You can leave that taped or you can do glue, but I would suggest in that area to do glue, okay? So, but the rest of it, you can go ahead and tape. If it's easier for you to just tape the actual chipboard itself, you can go ahead and do that and then place it. So that's what we're gonna do here. And just make sure that everything is lined up on the top and the bottom when you do that, okay? And I'm probably gonna just speed through this part of the video. Okay, so now that we got these all taped up, I'm gonna go ahead and line up the chipboard, the top and the bottom. And you want about an 1/8 inch of spacing right here, okay? Okay. And make sure you press that down firmly. Now this is the edge I was talking about. You might want to glue that instead of tape it, but it's up to you. Okay, we're going to take off these corners here, leave about an 1/8 inch in between this corner and where you're going to cut. That way when you fold it over, you're not going to see the chipboard underneath. Okay, so I would recommend just using the strongest glue that you have. I'm going to use this Lineco adhesive, natural pH adhesive, and it's for bookbinding and whatnot. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that. I gotta do my cutting. Start training my paper a little bit. I'm going to take out a notch right in here as well. first and fold that over. Oops, I did that one a little bit backwards. I wanted my side pieces to go down first and then my top over it so the seam looks cleaner, but I can always flip it over and make this the bottom. If you have any glues that are really good, that you would recommend, let me know in the comments down below what your favorite glue is. I don't really have a favorite. This is just the one I've had for, I think I got it a while back, and it's for bookbinding and stuff like that. So, and it had pretty good reviews. And press those down really good. Make sure it's all smooth. Clean up any glue if you have anything squeezing out. Now I did this one a little bit backwards. I wanted this flap to cover that seam, so I'll probably end up flipping this over and make this the top and that the bottom. I mean, it still looks fine. So I know I recommended before you can just tape the whole paper, and that's easy. You can do that as well. There'll still be a little bit of exposed tape, but it's in the inside and it doesn't make a difference. If you wanted to use like a remnant cutoff piece that you have to cover that, you can do that as well, but you're really not gonna see it. I'll show you what I mean. So we have this little gap right here, and I was worried that you were gonna be able to see the chipboard down in there, but you can't really. I mean, I guess if you look through the holes here, you can. So if you want it to look a little bit cleaner, you can go ahead and use one of those strip pieces and tape it down inside here, and then your cover piece will go over that. But that's up to you. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that. Let me see. I'm not sure if it really bothers me too much. I don't really notice it. You know, when I just first open the book, I don't notice it. But if that's something that bothers you, you can go ahead and take that step. Okay. Okay, now our inside piece. Okay, so we scored it right down the center. And the reason for that being is because we want to find the center, but I need to know where to score it on the sides. Now I can just look here and say, oh, okay, I need to score it there, but that's not where I want to score it. Because of that coil, I need a little bit of space so that coil has room down in, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but this way the coil has room down in here in the spine area. Okay, and because we want it to hide the seam when we cinch that coil. So we have to give it a little bit of spacing. So I would say we're gonna score about a 1/2 inch on each side from the center. But we have to make sure that that's actually going to work because we want to leave a small border all the way around. So I'm gonna start with a 1/2 inch on each side of that scoring that we did the first time. Oops. So where am I at? I'm right there. And I scored that at 4.5, right? Yeah, I scored that at 4.5. So I need to go a 1/2 inch over, so we're gonna line up at 4. And we're gonna score on that side. And then we're at 4.5, so then we're gonna go all the way up to 5 and score on that side. And hopefully that'll be just enough. And we're not putting anything down just yet. This is just to get an idea of our spacing. And you're not gonna see that scoring anyways. It's just kind of giving me an idea. But I need to see, I think right about there. I just wanna make sure my spacing all the way around is gonna work. Also, because I have to give that room. So I'm gonna fold this in half on that center score. Okay. And then I'm gonna fold it outwards on those outer scores. So then it's gonna do that. And then that's gonna tell me if that's gonna give me enough space for my coil in the middle and enough spacing all the way around. Which I think that's gonna give me enough. Yeah, I think that's gonna be fine. Okay, so we're gonna go with that. So we're not going to tape this on or glue on just yet. We needed to make these score marks because we need to be able to find the center of this and then figure out where we're gonna hole punch. But what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna jump into the dividers, and I'm gonna show you how, real quick, how I do the dividers on Cricut. And you can make your dividers different pattern. You can use different pattern cardstock for each divider if you want to. If you do that, just know you're gonna have to keep changing out your mat and whatnot. But if you want, if you use an 8.5 by 5 inch colored cardstock where it's just one color, you can fit 4 of the cardstocks on one 8.5 by 11 sheet. But if you want to use the color, the pattern one, you can do them all the same or change them up. It's completely up to you. Okay, so we're gonna go right ahead into the Cricut part of this, and I'm gonna briefly show you how to do that. Okay, so now we're in the Cricut app, and go ahead and hit this plus sign on the bottom. And on the bottom left, go down to shapes. And you can select whichever square you want. If you want rounded edges, that's fine. If you want like the straight, sharp edges, just pick the regular square. I'm gonna do the regular one. Okay, go ahead and tap that. And then just below, you're gonna hit edit. And then to the left here, you're gonna see where it says width and height. There's a little lock icon in between the two. Make sure that is unlocked. And our paper that we're using is 3.5 by 5, but the paper that's lining the inside of the book, the height of that is going to be 5.1. So we're going to make this these dividers 3.5 by 5.1. So your width is going to be 3.5, and your height is going to be 5.1. Okay? And go ahead and hit Actions just below. And then to the left, you're going to see that plus sign, and you're going to duplicate for however many dividers you're making. I'm going to do 4 of them, so I'll duplicate 3 more times. Okay, then on the bottom left, you're going to go back down to Shapes. Select a square again, tap that square, and then hit Edit. And the tab here is going to be 0.5 by 1.1. Okay, and you're going to take this first rectangle here, you're going to put it in the corner here and line it up, and you're going to tap that tab, and just below you're going to hit Actions, and you're going to duplicate that for however many dividers you have as well. Okay, so take one of those tabs and just line it up at the top and then overlap about halfway. Okay, tap out of it, then select it all together, and then just below hit Weld. Okay, tap out of that, select another rectangle, place it over the top. And the reason I'm placing it over the top of the first one is because I'm going to try and line up my tabs the way that I want. If you want your tabs to overlap like halfway, just place it where you want and make sure you go over, and it'll be like that. Tap out of it, tap on that one, move it out the way, and you can see it's where you want it. So you're going to select it together here on the left, and then on the bottom hit Weld. Okay, but what I want to do is with my tab is I want to line it directly underneath. So, whoops, that's what I'm going to do here. Okay, tap that, move it out the way, come back and select those two and Weld. Then I'm going to do the same thing, grab this one, place it over, grab my tab, line it up, tap out, take that one, move it out the way, come back, select the two together and Weld. Oops, I selected that. Okay, and Weld. So I can bring this one now over that and do the same thing. I hope this is not confusing. Tap out, move that file over, come back, select these two and hit Weld. Okay, so now we're going to see if we like how these line up. And hit Edit, and then I'm going to hit Arrange and bring that one to the front. Tap that. So that's how they're going to lay. Now if you're adding more tabs, then I would suggest, or more files, dividers, excuse me, I would overlap about halfway from vertically from the top down. So then you got room for a few more tabs. Okay, so go ahead and hit Make It. And make sure your Cricut is connected. And if you're going to be using the 12 by 12 sheets of pattern cardstock, and you want to use a different pattern each time, of course, you're going to have to change out your paper for each divider. And so as you can see, there's 4 here ready to be cut on the machine. But if you know which order you want each pattern for each divider, go ahead and select one of those. Hit the 3 buttons here on the top, the 3 dots, and you can hit Hide. And then it won't cut that one. And you can do that to to all the ones you don't want to cut. And you'll just have to keep, it's kind of tedious, but you'll have to keep coming back and forth and doing that as you change out the cardstock if you want those dividers to be a different pattern. If you want them to be all the same pattern, then, you know, just load up that one paper. And if you're using just a solid color cardstock, which usually comes in 8.5 by 11, these 4 will fit on there perfectly as long as you put the cardstock on the mat vertically. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut these out, and make sure that the settings on your Cricut are for cardstock. I usually do cardstock plus, but if it's not cutting it, I mean, you just have to adjust it. But if I go to cardstock plus and cut it twice, it'll probably cut through fine. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we're not going to attach this just yet. Okay, so we got our score marks on there. We have that ready to go. We're going to move on to our paper. So what I'm using, and you can cut your own size paper, I mean your own paper to whatever size you want. But what I'm using for this particular project are these Dollar Tree notepads. They're 3.5 by 5 inch. Not exactly, you may have to check that each tablet, but I'm going to use 2 of them. They come in a pack of 3, and I'm going to use 2 of them for this project. On my trial and error book, I only used 1 of the notepads, and as you can see, there's enough space for more. So I'm going to go ahead and use 2 of them. Now keep in mind they are glued on the top, so that's the part you're going to have to trim that glue off. And the reason I was telling you to check the sizes of each one is because even though they come in a pack together, they won't always be the same exact size. So this is going to be a little shorter than I would like for this particular book, but I mean, it's fine. It's going to work fine. We're just going to go ahead and trim off that glue on the top and make sure that our paper is even on the bottom. And we will be removing the back chipboard as well. And once we get that done, we'll come back and we'll start punching our holes, and I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so now we have our paper all trimmed up, and you don't need a cutting machine to cut the top of this. Go ahead and use whatever you got, an X-Acto knife or something. But you just want to cut enough off just to take that glue off. You don't want to cut off any more than that. And then just line it up. As you can see, these didn't come the same size, and they were off to begin with, and so they're just going to be off. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, depending on how many dividers you're going to put in this book, I'm probably only gonna do 4 dividers, and these little tablets are 50 each, so that's 100 sheets here. I may not use all 100 because I have to account for the dividers going inside, and that cardstock's thicker. So I'm gonna see, count out what I want for my spacing, which will, I mean, if I use the full 100, I'll probably do about 25 sheets in between each divider. So for each section, it'll be 25 sheets. And then we'll go ahead and hole punch these. Okay, now this machine will cut 12 pages at a time. And we want to make sure that this, I don't know if you can see it, right over here on the side, there's a little knob, a little ring, and so you're going to turn that to punching. And what we want to do is we want our paper to fit. We want these little punches to fit within our paper. So I don't want to get so close that I cut it off on the edge, which I did to some of them, because the paper wasn't the size that I thought it was. You can see how close I got there and had some casualties. And like I said, this machine, it's Racing, and it will do 12 sheets at a time. So like I said, I don't want to cut off that bottom there, so I want to give myself some space. So can get pretty close. So I guess right up against that line. And just set that there. Make sure it's all flat. And there you go. Go ahead and line this up. And what I'm doing is I'm giving myself a little bit of space so I'm not touching this little bit right here at the top. You can see I have a little bit of spacing. So I'm gonna go ahead and hole punch that. And I'm hole punching it folded in half. So our center score is right there. We're gonna fold that completely in half. We're gonna get that in there. And go ahead and hole punch that. Now, if you cut your own paper and you don't use these little Dollar Tree notepads, you can get your paper the exact size that you needed, and these holes are all gonna line up just perfectly. So as you can see, they're lining up. There'll be that little bit on the bottom. So even if you wanted to put these in and line them up to that square there, and then put it through, and it would take out that little bottom notch. Let me see how that's gonna, it'll just do that. It'll take out that little notch. So the ring's not gonna keep hitting that paper right there. And I mean, it's not really that big of a deal, but it's just something that we ran into because the paper wasn't exactly the size that we needed it to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and run these through so they all get that little notch on the bottom. And then we'll start assembling. So you can cut your dividers out to all be the same. That just depends on what you want. I just used a full sheet for each one and cut out all the dividers, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna just use them all the same, you know, for one book, or if I'm gonna take one from each one and have different ones in there. So that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. And I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, so like I said before, you can make a different divider for each space, or you can just make them all the same divider if you want to. So that's up to you. I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna do just yet, but I think I might just do different, one of each. So I'm just trying to decide which one I'm gonna want first. Just to see here. I want that one first. That looks cute. That's cute too. And this one is going to be a middle one if I use it at all. I messed up the other ones. Okay. That looks cute. Well, we'll see. Okay, so before we start binding this, we want to make sure we add our tape on the back of here. Now remember, you can leave a border for glue, or you can just do it all tape. I'm going to leave a little bit of a border for some glue. Okay, so we want to remove the tape off the back. And then we want to, I believe I was doing it this way. Okay. And what we want to do is where we scored it, might be okay. You want to line that up with the edge of your chipboard in here. And you can always check that too to make sure that you're going to line up good, paying attention to your spacing all the way around the book. So it looks like it's going to be okay. So I want to go ahead and add my glue. This. Okay. So my score line is about right here. This is a lot easier doing it with tape. Now I'm trying not to get glue on my hands. But I can see my score line still this way. I'm gonna get a little bit of glue on my hands. And pay attention to your spacing all the way around, okay? Let's see if I'm in view here. Okay. And it may not be perfect, so don't worry about it though. Just do your best. Okay. Oh. And just press that really, really well. And if you do get a little bit of glue, just wipe it off. It's no big deal, because if you want to protect the outside of this book, you're gonna wanna get some Mod Podge. And what I'm gonna use is the clear matte. Well, so I think it's all clear. Yeah, it says matte, Mod Podge, water-based sealer, glue and finish. So that's what I'm gonna use on the outside. So if you get a little bit of glue on this anywhere, don't worry about it. Just wipe it off, okay? All right. So that's one side, and we can see where our other one's pretty much gonna lay, our other end here. We could flip that over, get an idea of how far it's going to be. Kind of pull it that way a little bit. I gave myself about, or maybe a little more than 1/8 of an inch. That's what I'm gonna try to do there also. And I'm not putting anything past that score line, okay? Pay attention to your spacing all the way around. Try to get it as close as you can. It may not be perfect. That's okay. Okay, so, oops, hopefully I didn't get glue everywhere. Okay, so this is our top. My top looks lined up pretty good right here, not too bad. My bottom, not too great, but my spacing, it looks really cute still. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, and this is optional, you can do whatever you want to seal the outside of this. Now, what I used on the trial and error one, I went ahead and used Mod Podge on this. Okay, so you can see the difference with paper. It's really matte, and even though I'm using matte Mod Podge, there's still a little bit of a shine to it, and you can see the texture from, I don't know if you could see that in the camera, but there's a little bit of texture from the brush. And what I used was one of these sponges. And so I did only 2 coats on this, and I paid attention to the little corners and creases, and but very, very thin coats. And then I let them dry about 15-20 minutes in between coats. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this now. I didn't have too much of a problem doing this one with all the paper inside. If you have any of this Mod Podge, go ahead and use it. So you don't have to watch me do all the Mod Podging. I'll probably just speed through this part of it. But as you can see, this is the final product. I think it came out so cute. It's very summer looking to me. I like the amount of paper that I used in this one compared to this one, as you can see. You can even add little folders in here, so you can even make these little dividers into folders also, which I think I'm gonna do for some of these other books, but I might do a video on that, just making these little file inserts into file insert folders or whatever you would call them. So that way, if you do have any recipes that are on a card and you want to place them in here, or you clipped a recipe somewhere and you want to put it in there, you'll be able to do that as well. If you wanted to add a pocket inside here, you can even do that now. And you can cut out any of your extra remnant pieces and, you know, just tape them in there. However, you can even create a pocket, like a library pocket or something like that, and, you know, put that in there, and you got somewhere to put a few extra little tidbits if you want to. You can add something like a strap to this, like an elastic strap to this if you wanted to keep it closed. If you do that, you'd have to make a little incision, like a little hole in the back here, like a little slit, and then fit your elastic in there and glue it down before you actually put this cover over it. And then your cover would cover that, and then you have your elastic band that's gonna go over. So that's another option as well. The amount of paper I used in here from those little sheets, I used 2 of the tablets, so that would have been 100 sheets, but I took out 20, so there's 80 sheets in here with 4 cardstock dividers. And I think that filled it up pretty good. It still leaves a little bit of space. It's not sticking out. The dividers aren't sticking out all the way towards the front. And as you can see, we made the dividers bigger also to cover the paper better. I had my measurements off the first time. So that worked out though this time, and the amount of paper and other little things you can do. So there's still room to play around and add some little goodies to this and do something a little bit different, but I think it came out great. So what I'm gonna do here is just do some thin coats of the Mod Podge, and then I'll probably just speed through this part of the video, and then we'll show you the end result when it's all dry. All right, so here's the finished book. I did do 2 coats of Mod Podge. They were very thin coats, and I used a little brush to, a sponge brush to put it on. I did let each coat dry for about 15-20 minutes. And then after the final coat, I let this dry overnight because it still felt a little bit cold to me and just a little bit tacky. So I wanted to let that sit overnight, and now it feels great. I think it came out absolutely adorable with these dividers, and just, using different dividers in there, I think it just looks really cute. I loved how the coil came out and how we hid it back here. I did hide that spine. I did cover that spine with chipboard as well, because I did write on the chipboard and I could see the ink. So I went ahead and covered that in the back so you can't see it now through the holes. There's still a lot of room to add more to these and, you know, really personalize them. You can even write, you know, recipes in here with your handwriting. You can print these recipes out if you want on paper and put that in here. You can even use the iPad pen and write it out yourself, so it's still your handwriting, but if there's any mistakes, you can clean it up and just print it out in your handwriting. I think there's something really special about having a recipe like in grandma or great grandma's handwriting or your mom's handwriting or something, you know, or your dad, somebody's handwriting, right? That was very close to you. And to have something like that is, I don't know, there's just something really sweet about it. And so if you have any of those recipes that are handwritten by grandma, great grandma, or a dear loved one, scan them. Print them out and then size them to fit the page that you need and insert them into these little recipe books. I think they are going to make such a sweet gift for somebody. And if you have children that are just getting out on their own, or they just got married and they got their own place or something like that, you can really personalize these with special recipes. And like I said, if they're handwritten, just scan them and put them in there, and it's a really special gift, and I'm sure whoever receives it is going to be happy to receive something so special, because you're really taking the time to create something for them, but you're also personalizing it, you know, so you're giving, you know, with your handwriting, you're personalizing it, you're giving family recipes in there and stuff. So it's just such a sweet gift, I think, all the way around, and I think it's going to be something that's really enjoyed by the receiver. And I did enjoy actually making these, and I love how they came out, and I hope you do too. I hope you make a set or a few sets and, you know, share these with somebody. I hope you have someone special in mind already for something like this. And yeah, I hope you really enjoyed it, and if so, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this from me and you'd like to support my channel, please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on that notification bell so you're notified anytime I put out a new video. I do try to put one out once a week. Leave me some feedback in the comments down below, you know, just maybe some suggestions on new videos, or what you thought about these, or if you have any questions about this tutorial, just, you know, leave me a comment down below and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. And thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.